So my job here today is to really encourage you to participate in the innovation that you saw that everyone's sharing today, right? You know, it's all through standards or just really bringing smart people together and great relationships that come along with these meetings that really can make this happen, both in your companies or just in the, you know, the retail environment itself. So it's a great way for you to grow your own experience and networking it as well. So, you know, a couple of people have mentioned ARTS, and so if you're not familiar with the fact that ARTS was a group of retail technologists that wanted to improve innovation in their own companies, they came together and formed this group of people. And it's had a long history of development over time. We've had many different logos as we've transitioned through and moved that organization from the National Retail Federation over now into the Object Management Group. And so we bring a lot of standards with us, you know, so we haven't just started from scratch, you know, here at OMG. But the goal of innovation here was to really make products that are much more interoperable so that our retailers were not locked into one vendor with their proprietary technology. And I really believe that that's really helped innovation overall as well. Some of our history of what we've developed along those lines, it started out with the, you know, a standardized data model, all that information you're trying to gather. You know, how can you make that reusable across all these different systems that we have in retail stores today? And then on top of that, our unified point of service is part of our key operating systems that we've built. Andy touched on, you know, all the different standards that we have, and I have another slide later on that kind of blows all of that up as our inventory. But I really just want to encourage you to come and work with us. You know, it's a great group of people to help develop these standards as well. So, you know, the problem that we're trying to solve is that the app-to-app integration. You know, reduce the cost of integration so that innovation can happen, and then, you know, build these best-of-breed systems that can really interoperate together. So going a little bit deeper, our operational data model, if you have to build a data model from scratch, we've had a couple of new attendees tell us that they were trying to build a data model until they found out that we already had a reference data model, and it's huge. You know, there's actually, I believe, over 7,000 attributes now. My slide's a little bit out of date, but so many different subject areas. That's just one piece of it. Unified point of service is a standard that we've just, you know, brought over into the OMG and done another update to for our version 1, and then we're continuing to develop a version 2 of Unified POS that's more API based. And then our XML schemas and messaging allow a variety of different systems to interoperate. So when you look at that, you know, holistically, the green area, you can't even read this slide. The green area represents all that XML. Our point of sale is broken down into, you know, web services POS, which is up and coming, you know, to be able to interoperate through different devices using services-based architecture, as well as our .NET implementations from OPOSJ for Java and .NET versions. We have a number of different white papers and thought-leading white papers of different areas that we've come across. It's, you know, by having such great people like Matt in the room, we're able to develop, you know, stuff that really helps educate retailers in different areas of up-and-coming technologies. You know, cloud was big. How do retailers take advantage of cloud? You know, some of these may look a little dated, right? Bring your own device, SOA as a reference architecture, but this is a lot of pedigree of what we've developed over time, and we continue to write white papers into the future to help educate retailers how they understand the latest technologies like we did today, blockchain. And that's just one example. But we really look forward to having you with us to help build this inventory even more. Some of the projects that we're working on, we talked about Unified POS version 2. We started out with the printer API model. These are RFPs. That is the way OMG works, is you create an RFP, it outlines what you want to create in a new specification, and then individual companies or groups of people respond to that RFP with that new standard as a solution. And it goes through a variety of review cycles with the architecture board and our own organization in the retail domain task force. The next one is a fiscal API service. This is being driven a large part by our European counterparts because of the fiscal reporting requirements that they're seeing that are being legislated, and to do that in a standard fashion. So that's had a lot of interest to develop that as well. And then robots in retail, or the retail communication services device. How can we tie that back to our existing point of service systems? And so we have an RFP that's building on top of that already. Some of the other standards that we're looking to convert from what was our arts business processes over into OMG business processes that we did. Video analytics has already been completed. I talked about web services PAWS, which is in the finalization task force stages, as well as our unified PAWS. And we actually bumped those a version for that migration over into the object management group. And then we've also done a little bit of cleanup and a little bit of additions to it too, so it is still evolving. Some of the things that we see we want to do in the future, we talked about location and also collaborating with GS1 on how that might work together. GS1's going through a process right now of updating their barcode, the UPC codes, as transitioning to QR codes as a new, more fully featured method. And so how that might impact our own standards would probably also affect which of these new efforts we want to work on. You can imagine the amount of information that you can collect out of a UPC code versus the traditional barcode, and then that can make the experience and what you can do at that point of service, much more robust. And then other areas like PAWS log, which is huge. We're also looking at actually really doing a much more simplified version of digital receipt and working with OPAWS-J and the Flex Receipt teams of outlining what that RFP should look like. We have several papers that I'm still struggling to get posted on our website. PAWS on the Go is kind of our understanding of how you can do the same thing that you see some cutting edge retailers doing, but doing it with standards. You don't need to do it from scratch or use secret sauce on your own. A lot of our standards would enable that same level of experience. Blockchain as well, and then even how do you handle with microservices from a monolithic stack. So these are great blogs and papers we're trying to get published. They'll be up on our wiki page for sure, and then also trying to get them over on OMG's page. And several of them, Karen's been really good at publishing them and making them aware through our LinkedIn communication methods there. So I'm not doing this on my own, right? I have a couple of compadres that have been, on this going down this road with the OMG, John Globitz and Leonid. We really make up the three legs of the table that holds up arts right now. John has taken on the majority of the data model and the ontology of how we're trying to even fix our own standards that we've been developing over time and make them much more consistent. Leonid's been running with the unified PAWS as we had taken over from where Paul Gay used to lead. And then I just kind of pick up all the things that still fall on the floor. All right. But that's the limit of my presentation here. It's really the commercial guys that get you guys involved and come help us work on standards. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing when you deal with retailers today? What are any of the standards that we just touched on today look like they're elements that would really help you innovate? I know Andy's using location, in a very unique way with the robots and drones that he's developing. And I'm just looking for other inspiring innovation stories. Dennis?
Food Trust, quite frankly, has leveraged the heck out of fresh item management. And more importantly, what we've been using it for is educating not just our own consultants, but other consultancies that are actually doing implementation work on what the heck fresh item management is about.
Right.
Because it was very eye-opening to me to understand how little people really understood about how managing food was very different than, managing everything else in the store. Mm-hmm. The thing I still get asked a lot about is, so whatever happened to the arts data model? And I keep pointing folks to OMG, and I'm getting this a lot from mid-tier retailers who are are doing their first data model update since Y2K.
Right. Well, yeah, it's still out there, and it is available now, and you used to have to be a member of ARTS to be able to
Right.
get it. Now it's on our OMG site. We have it in its original Irwin form, and we also have it in an HTML form that you can navigate through. It has a lot of narrative describing the model itself. It's clickable. You can get to all the behind-the-scenes metadata and the definitions that describe that model. So there's a lot of information still available out there. And version of the XML as well. Yeah, so we have, yeah, so if you want to import it into a different form, you can do that as well. So it is out there, it's available, and I guess it's on the OMG Retail site. So OMG/retail.
Yep. That's a good tie-in that we do have a fresh item management standard for communication and the information that contains. That's one of those pieces on the slide you can't read, it's too small. And but another area that you're talking about, our data model is, I just lost it, is the training. It's how do you use the data model or how you use these standards. So Richard Halter, who has been the architect for ARTS for a very long time, has developed several training programs that we're linking to on his site. So if you're looking at where to start or how to use some of these standards and products in building your own systems and software, we do have training to be able to do that. Yes, Karen?
I just wanted to add, a few years ago we did a survey of ARTS users, I think with NCR, and we asked them what was the principal value they gained from these standards, and we learned that actually training and teaching new employees about retail was neck and neck with any cost savings that they had otherwise achieved through implementing the standards.
Yeah.
So this ARTS standards, I mean, I sometimes say we, but really it's the royal we, because it's the folks in this room that developed these standards, and they've really baked in years and years of retail knowledge. And Whole Foods Market, they told me that that's like the very first thing they do when someone walks in the door, is they sit them down with the ARTS model. So
That's great.
congratulations.
And a lot of that's built into the business process model that we have for retail as well. It starts out at a level 0 and a level 1. And then if you're really finding out the detail, you want more detail, Richard Halter has spent a lot of time taking it down to even a much more granular level and how all those business processes tie back into the standards that you take advantage of. So it's a very thorough representation. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bart. What do you think? Should we bring the group back up and see?
Yeah.
Shish, if you don't mind coming up. Bart, sorry to send you down and back also. And go up and take a chair. All right, I know that we missed a couple of questions in between one of the presentations. Certainly if that individual is still here, I'm not seeing that. So that question may have departed. And just wonder if, with the whole group up there, with the context of, could be their individual presentations or any larger issue that comes up between them, it could go all the way back to disruption, if that's interesting.